Welcome back to the channel. Before we get into what you probably clicked on this video for, anybody who saw the last video about the suspension updates, I realized I never showed you the articulation and how it moves. So anybody that missed that, I had some footage of it, but I lost it and don't know where it went. So anybody who wants to see that, I'm gonna show you guys that real quick. Again, I filmed something for the last video, but it didn't make it. I lost the footage. I don't know where it's at. Or I didn't hit record on the camera, who knows? But anybody who's keeping up with these videos and watched the last one, there you go. Also, it's really good that this doesn't move up and down a lot. If this whole shock was moving to compensate for the movement, you're doing it wrong. It's gonna move a little bit, but as long as this is pushing this way and not down, you're doing something right. Anyways, just wanted to add that in. Now, we get to the fun stuff. So, from last week, we have a new plate. So it has all the countersunk holes properly. We have some bolts in there. I was gonna do actual like countersunk holes, the ones that are like, they look like a V. The only reason I didn't do that is just when we go to do the CNC, it's gonna be easier for it to just drill a hole and then a smaller hole within that hole versus trying to do the countersunk thing. The CNC can do that. There's no problem with it. It's just gonna take more machining time and it's gonna take a different tool path and just longer to create that. So this was the easier way. And then the reason we didn't go with normal hex head bolts is because you have to have a socket in there, which would be a lot larger than those holes. And it wouldn't really mess with the strength of it, but it's just easier to have a hole that's exactly that right size of the head of the bolt. And then we'll just use an Allen wrench or an Allen wrench socket to bolt those on. Now, you'll see there's two missing on the bottom. So I printed this. When I went to go print it, I think I mentioned this before. The 3D prints, when you print them, they shrink because it's just plastic. It heats up, and as it cools, it shrinks. I normally in the software print at 101% of the original model. This stuff doesn't like to shrink as much, and it ended up being a little bit larger than we need, and some of the holes don't quite, they're so close, but the tolerance of this is so tight and the material is so strong that it's not gonna flex to get in there. So all but two of them go in, so I'm good with that. And then up here at the top, we have where the shift rod comes through. I think I showed that last time, but you know, that'll stick through when you shift gears, and so it sticks out past this a little bit. We have some cutouts in there, we're gonna make a plug and then probably put some kind of epoxy in there to hold that plug in. I was thinking about doing a thread. There's actually threads in there that I 3D printed. I'm probably not gonna do that. Again, all this stuff is gonna be made out of metal. Doing that on a CNC is doable, but it's just extra time that there's no need for it. It doesn't need to be threaded. There's no need to have access to that piece. By the time you're gonna gain access to that piece, you just take the whole front plate off. Also, before we do all that, I cut more of the car out. So that's all the room that we're gonna need. I basically cut it to the back seats used to start right there. So that's basically where the back seat starts. We are gonna need pretty much all of that room based on some measurements. You guys will see what it looks like later when we actually get it in the car with the engine and all that and see just how far it goes back. Also, I forgot to mention, you see those right there? Those are gas lines. In the process of cutting that out, I didn't realize the gas lines ran right down the trans tunnel. And so I went to go cut that side and fluid started coming up and I was like, I immediately know what that is, and it was gas. Luckily, I was using a Sawzall. Not that that's safe, but if I was using like the cutoff wheel and there was sparks going everywhere, that would have been bad. So, oh, there's also one of those is also a brake line. We were gonna redo the brakes anyways, so that one I'm not worried about. But yeah, it happens. And just like that, we have it connected to the engine, and that is incredibly long drivetrain. Now you will see the part where the drive shaft is supposed to come out lines up right with our starter. We can go around that. However, I would like to go through that and then move the starter to the other side. That's gonna take a ton of work, but I think the work to do that is gonna be easier than the work to create some new drive shaft for that. Because if we go through the bell housing right there, all we have to do is just get it extended. We don't have to like make a two-piece one or put a different, you know, U-joint on or anything like that. It literally is just extending it, and then we can make a bracket for the other side to mount the starter. So I'm gonna look into that. I had this made already earlier, but I had an extra stool laying around. So now we have a mount for that, which has casters on it. So this whole thing can go sideways, rotate, do whatever it needs to do. So it'd be a lot easier to slide up under the car and then somehow just have to lift it up or jack it up, or probably more likely lower the car down onto it to bolt it up. So depth-wise, this is where the motor is going to be mounted. It obviously be a lot higher. The motor mounts are way down there and mount up there. So definitely will look different, but that's how far back we need to go. I am worried about clearance right here with how high the motor does have to go. Other than that, we have the little transfer case piece over there, so that's gonna end up right where the seat needs to go. So passenger seat is questionable in this car. I do want to have at least a passenger seat. What I'm thinking is maybe in the back where the back seats are, is just put some kind of bucket seat back there, like racing bucket seat with like harnesses and stuff. They'll be sitting really far back, but I'll be able to have a passenger. So if we can get a regular seat to work, all the mounting holes for the seat are there. We may have to cut those mounts out when we lift it up, because that transfer case piece, I don't think is gonna end up under the floorboard. I think it's gonna end up above it, and it's gonna have to go basically right where the seat goes. I finally have bolts in for the motor plate, so I'm gonna put those on real quick, get the timing cover and everything mounted up, not with gaskets or anything. I'm just gonna mount it like it is, and then lower the car, put the motor mounts on, and then jack out the transmission so we can actually see what it looks like in the car. I probably will have to cut around the transfer case now that I'm thinking about it, but we'll get to that when we get there. I just want to see how it looks when it's actually like in the car in its proper position, not just, you know, a foot below where it's supposed to be. After a couple hours of work, got everything in. Transmission is just held up with the jack right down there. The motor mount is fully bolted in on both sides. The problem though, so the transmission is getting ready to hit the top of the trans tunnel, and it's not even fully level. The car's sitting on the tilt right now, but even if I tilt the camera to be level with the car, it's still, the motor is still not where it needs to be. That just puts extra strain on the bolts on the water pump and that actually hold the motor plate. Obviously it's doing it, and I can even lower it down farther than that, but again, there's gonna be some weird stress on that plate. I'm gonna ask around and see if that is okay. If it's gonna, I can lower it down maybe an inch, and it shouldn't put it at too steep of an angle. Worst case, here's what I'm thinking. The whole thing has to go down. So, well, I mean, what you could do is angle those back at the same height, but really what I'd probably do is cut those tabs off and then just move them down basically to the bottom of the frame rail, whereas as far as I can go at the same distance front to back. If I put it down as far as I can go, I get about 2.5 inches, which, assuming it'll take another 1.5 inches to get this to be level, maybe not even that much, it'll drop it down and we'll have just barely enough clearance to make it back to the diff. Again, I'm gonna ask if the angle is okay, if the stresses on that plate are okay. It is just aluminum, and we're not running a ton of power. It might be one of those things where we just make it work right now. I'm okay with that. It's not gonna be perfect, but it'll get the job done. We'll make a bracket across the bottom to put the transmission at that right height. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's in there. It's in the car. It's a mid-engine car now. It's part of the cabin. So my seat's gonna have to get moved back because by the time you put the exhaust on and build a new trans tunnel, there's no room for pedals. So we need to put the pedals about right there. It might be a little farther out, but it'll give me some more legroom as this comes out and it's shaped more to the transmission versus wider up there by the engine. Had to cut a little more on this side, so one of the mounting holes for a passenger seat got cut out. It's not outrageous to put a seat there. We'd have to make a custom bracket, so that may still be a possibility, but again, by the time you build some kind of tunnel around it, it might just be too much. But again, if we can get a seat back there, and then the passenger's feet just kind of go right there, then it's plenty of room. Anyways, I think that's gonna be it. That's exciting. I'm gonna get working on figuring out just exactly how we're gonna keep it in there and what angle and height and all that. Other than that, we're still working on finishing out 3D printing more of the suspension components so we can actually get both of them bolted up at the same time. We still need to make the hoop that goes around the front axle that will connect the push rod. So definitely some more designing there. And then once we have suspension and engine in the car, we'll make some drive shafts and start moving to the interior and getting this thing wired up, getting the engine started, and giving me a place to sit. Oh, and we need to mount the front diff, which honestly is gonna be probably one of the last things we do, because I would much rather finish this car and not be all-wheel drive than try to get the all-wheel drive working and then not be able to take the car to the to Mustang Week in September, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of having an all-wheel drive Mustang. But all the work is there. We just, you know, I hate to mount the diff and take all this time and then not make the show, versus if that's the last thing we have to do, I'd much rather finish out something else on the car and actually be able to take the whole car there. I think still a mid-engine plus that cool suspension we're doing is still gonna be pretty cool to show off. So that's all I got. I'll see you guys in the next one.